Welcome to the I Hate Critics movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick, and eventually Jeff Lasseter. He's not here yet. We're not going to tell you why. We'll let him tell that story later if he chooses to or not. Anyway, this is our year in review episode. So you know where all the links are at. You know how to follow us. You know our patreon.com/criticspod's the best way to support the podcast. You know our TeePublic links at ihatecritics.net. Sean's, where are your movie reviews?
It's at geeks.media, horror.media, and of course, just follow me on Twitter at Podcast Sean. You'll find all the links there.
And they're in our show notes as well. Go ahead.
I posted a new trailer as well today for a movie called Jurassic Triangle. I don't know, it's a weird looking movie. It doesn't look very good, but I was having fun, so I posted a trailer for that. And there's an industrial complex for these movies that are these knockoff films. The two people who star in this movie, Jurassic Triangle, and why I wanted to do this is because each of them starred in at least 9 movies last year.
Jesus.
I mean, these are porno numbers, and these are not pornography, as far as I understand it. These aren't porn. They're putting out porno numbers, though, in terms of, like, knockoffs. Like, the one guy's starring in a movie, what's it called? Not Snakes on a Plane. He's doing Spiders on a Plane. Like, as if that's still relevant today. But, like, this woman who's starring in the movie was also in Dinosaur Hotel 3. 1, 2, and 3, actually. Like, it's just a weird... So that just kind of struck me, and I wanted to mention it, so I did an article on it.
Nice. All right, we are going to do our year in review this episode, but we're going to wait for Jeff to get here. We missed last week's episode just due to the way Christmas landed. So Sean and I are going to go back and talk about the Iron Claw as that came out during our break. And we're also both big wrestling fans. And anyway, I'll let you start.
Yeah, The Iron Claw, directed by Sean Durkin and starring Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich, the kind of the oldest of the Von Erich family and the one who's still alive. The Von Erichs, they were a wrestling family. They became huge in Dallas in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Their dad ran the territory there. Fritz Von Erich, who's played by Holt McCallany in the movie. Kevin Von Erich is played by Zac Efron. You've got Carrie and Michael. And the Von Erichs are a legendary wrestling family. There's a lot of lore. And it's certainly something that I would absolutely recommend making a movie about, just not this movie, because they decided to compromise the timeline so spectacularly that they basically had all of the incidents of the Von Erich family happen within like a 6-month period. And this is a tragedy that unfolded over more than a decade. It included some incredible stories. I mean, the fact is that there were not, it weren't merely just these 3 brothers. There were 4 brothers. One of which, but 3 of them ended up dying as professional wrestlers. 2 of them by suicide, one of them either by a drug overdose or via enteritis while he was overseas. And that's a lot of tragedy for one single family. So you would assume that would make for a tremendous movie. But the way that they structure this story, they compact the timeline so badly that the biggest incidents in the history of the Von Erich family, like I said, are comprised in like about a 6-month period. And it's just not necessary to do it that way. It makes it feel completely unbelievable. And I realize that this is a story that already seems completely unbelievable, that of 4 brothers, 3 of them are dead. 2 of them by, such tragic means, right. One by just, but I mean, just the idea that there would be that much tragedy in a single family just blows your mind.
Well, I guess I would like to offer a different take on that, because while I've more than, it's not like they put a timeline on the screen. I think it was more of a pacing issue, because it does feel like this is a long movie, and they do take a while. All the tragedy happens like in the last quarter of the movie, more or less, last third at least. and so it's very bang, bang, bang. Like I don't think the Carrie Von Erich and the other brother happened within a week, but it kind of feels that way. I mean, the way they put it together. He does go to the WWF and become Texas Tornado, but they don't go into any of that. He just is there, and they just move so fast. So I think it's really a pacing problem to the point where there isn't really a story. There is a moral and a point, and I think they accomplished that just fine, but it's not that strong of a moral and point that it makes the movie great. I don't know. The other part, and I think you got me here, but I don't like biopics that much.
Yeah.
I used to, and then we started doing the show, and I'm like, all of a sudden, all the flaws, and almost all of them, unless they're done in a very unique and creative way, like the Elton John one, Rocket Man, and a few others, but the rest, you have to take characters out. You have to combine characters. You got to play with the story. You got to play with the timeline to compress it into one movie. And at the end of the day, it's just stuff happening, and the story doesn't exist anymore. This really should be about how, and it is, but how Kevin Von Erich, how they're, Fritz Von Erich, the way what he taught them was so wrong and immoral, and and how he's gonna, when he grows up and he's gonna have a family and he's gonna do it this way, and it's there, but it's so behind the scenes, which in some ways I appreciate that, but I almost think it's lost because it really isn't this big moment at the end, when it should be.
It's a very downbeat ending, of course, obviously because of the subject matter, but it just sort of peters out as opposed to being this big emotional moment. Where I would have done something with, Kevin Von Erich actually came back and wrestled alongside his two sons in MLW, and that could have been a really great moment to end on and celebrate, this family and what they've accomplished in professional wrestling. But this is more along the line of tragedy porn. This is just indulging in every aspect of the family tragedy of the Von Erichs in a way that feels unseemly. It feels like we're just exploiting this, and they left out an entire brother. Left out the most dramatic of them. I mean, this kid Chris Von Erich was born with brittle bones and was still so desperate to be a wrestler alongside of his brothers that he got in the ring anyway and ended up hurting himself and then ending up taking his own life. I mean, Carrie's story gets truncated to the point where, like, they pretend he doesn't have a wife. They pretend he never had a kid. This is a man who managed to hide the fact that he lost the bottom portion of his leg and still went on to become he went to WWE after he lost a portion of his leg.
And nobody knew.
And nobody knew about it. Granted, that's a lot of that is just such a tragic story of him using so many painkillers that he was just killing himself slowly. But the fact that they just gloss over the fact that he managed to do this thing and become the Intercontinental Champion in the WWE, the second highest title to Hulk Hogan at the time in WWE. That's crazy to me that you would not make that a point that you want to celebrate, but they gloss it over because they're so focused on Kevin's story. And they're doing that because Kevin's the one who's still alive and has the rights to the story. And because Kevin has some, I guess, a little bit of not control, but certainly they want to satisfy him. They're not going to go hard on his dad because he doesn't go hard on his dad. And they're not going to go into his whole family because they're keeping the story focused on him.
Yeah, but it wasn't focused on him enough either. They really had to pick it was too focused on Kevin for the ensemble, what they were trying to show, but it really should have been about one of them and everybody else.
It should have been about Fritz being the ultimate villain. I mean, the things that he did. I mean, when his son Michael, they gloss over this as well, but he pushed that kid out of a coma to get on television to say that he's gonna make his big comeback and be the Miracle Mike. And that's a thing that he did. Tried to push the kid back into wrestling after he had nearly died from an infection from a match. That he pushes him out on TV when he's clearly just, I mean, if you watch the actual video footage, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
He is not there. He's not there. And his dad pushed him to do that. Fritz is the villain. And for whatever reason they want to pretend that he's not completely the villain, I don't understand. They do show him early on, like doing horrible things like ranking his children. Like, could you imagine if you've got two kids, which one's in first place right now, Bob?
Right. And they do it throughout the movie too. He changes. It's the whole thing is, it's kind of like the way Scorsese approached Wolf of Wall Street. He's really not judging his characters. He's just presenting them. The problem, I mean, again, there's a lot good here. There's a lot of wasted performances. I thought in a great movie, we're talking about how Mara Tierney in The Side is so defeated and doing such a good job of, quietly, by not being a main part of the movie, carrying this thing. But instead it's wasted. The kid from Shameless who plays Kerry Von Erich, I want to see his movie because I would almost say he was better than Zac Efron, and he's barely in this thing.
And he's got such a dramatic story, and that just don't use any of it.
Yeah, you got the story. You got the most popular of all of them, at least because he went to the WWF. He was my favorite wrestler for a year.
I just couldn't believe that, though. I couldn't believe the way that they treated that character and just glossing over so many of the most important moments. Like, they barely even mentioned the fact that he became, the NWA champion. I mean, because they immediately turned that into him winning that the same night, going out and being in his motorcycle accident,
right.
Which is not happened. It was 2 years later. He was in the motorcycle accident 2 years later.
And in a better movie, I wouldn't care. That something like that is something you do to speed these movies up. But because it's just not, I don't know. It's just, and I can't even imagine why people love it that aren't wrestling fans either. I mean, again, the performances are fine. But it's just, there's no story. It's just shit's happening and then it ends.
I think this is another case of the most of something. This is the most tragic and the most sad, and Zac Efron is being the most sad of anybody in any movie. And I think that's just not to take away. I don't think he's bad in the movie.
No.
I don't think it's a bad performance. I think it's just it's a performance that is demonstrative. It's a performance in a movie that is intended to be heavily melodramatic, which I gotta talk about this. I'm sorry. I know this is going to be one of those wrestling things that people don't want to hear about, but this idea that he wrestled a match against Ric Flair that was for the title that he lost, and that his father and his brother were disappointed that he lost by disqualification because he went too far and he got himself disqualified, and he goes in the back and they're disappointed in him. Fuck that. Fritz wrote that ending. He wrote it. Professional wrestling isn't a real sport. Why are you dramatizing this into pretending that wrestling is real? Why are you trying to keep kayfabe at one moment and then talking about how this guy wins the championship tomorrow night in another moment? Make up your mind. Is wrestling real? Is it not real? Like, it's such bullshit. But then they have this scene backstage where they're disappointed in him for getting disqualified and losing the title. And then Ric Flair comes walking in and asks him to go for a beer. This would never happen in the 1980s. Guys got fired for being seen. If the good guys were seen with the bad guys, you could get fired for that. Ric Flair would never walk into the Von Erich locker room. I'm sorry. I know that's a stupid wrestling thing, and nobody cares, but I care. It made me feel dumb watching it.
Well, the whole Ric Flair thing was a mess. I'm not as bothered by because they do a good enough job, in my opinion, that Jeff's joining us in the mid-conversation, but they do a good enough job with that where they make it sound like Fritz didn't write it and that he just went off script. So I could take it that way. But the whole Ric Flair, hey, Jeff, sorry, we started talking about the wrestling movie without you. We'll bring it back in a little bit. But the whole Ric Flair thing was a disaster. Like, and everybody's saying that, even the people that are liking the movie, they should have, I think I told Sean this offline, they should have treated Ric Flair like Air treated Michael Jordan in that movie, where you hear his voice, but you never truly see him because he's
licensed from actual audio. Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Or use some of the Von Erich's own archive.
Right.
I'm sure they've got archive of a Flair promo that could have thrown in there.
He's
that would have
too recognizable to have a guy try to play him, and then to do it that poorly.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah. That was a very big disappointment. But, I mean, I'm not going to say I hate the movie. I'm just going to say I'm disappointed by it because
Sean Dirk is a very good director. He is a very good director, and there are elements of this that are incredibly well acted. There are good ideas here, but I'm sorry, just so much of it is so needlessly done and so carelessly done that I can't get behind it.
This is one of those things where, usually when you have a passion project, you can feel the passion of the director, and it really makes it even better. This is one of those where he likes it so much that he can't let things go, and he's not. I don't know. He wants he wants too much in there, but at the same time, he's pulling other things out, and he just ends up kind of with a mess. And even like tragedy porn, like I like Manchester by the Sea, that's tragedy porn, but at least there's a good story that goes with it. You know what I'm saying? This is just kind of stuff happening, and I just feel like you had a bunch of wasted performances, wasted direction. I mean, a lot of it just could have been so good if it was a TV show and they took their time. That's really the only way to do a story this long, or just pick one of the characters and do it that way.
Yeah.
Anything else on Iron Claw before we bring Jeff fully into the show?
I did not put it on my worst of the year list. It's not in the top 10 worst movies of the year. It's a middling bad, not a completely terrible.
Well, and because it's not on our list as good either. Us being wrestling fans, I wanted to talk about it at some point. We hadn't gotten the chance up to now, and Jeff wasn't here, so it was a perfect time.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Sean.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I got pulled over tonight for doing 60 and a 55.
Oh, that's fucking.
You in Leclerc?
I was coming over the 74 bridge. I didn't get a ticket.
Oh, thank
God.
That's
good.
Decided that this is a lesson for. He's pulling people over and telling them that not a mile over 55.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
Meanwhile, people are blowing by at 100, but yeah.
I went across at 85 this morning. Well, hold on though. There was a flood in my building. Like one of the toilets had been overflowing all holiday weekend, and so I get a call. You need to get here. There's an inch of water on the showroom floor.
Oh my God!
And somehow I didn't get pulled over.
Just because I was in a hurry, because I had to be somewhere is why I got pulled.
Yeah.
I didn't get a ticket. I just got a warning.
Good.
As we're sitting there and people are literally doing 85, 90 miles an hour off the bridge.
Right.
That's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Bettendorf
So
Copper.
you were rushing back from the movies, right?
What's that?
You were rushing back from the movies, is that right?
I was not actually. I had to run a bunch of errands this afternoon, and I just said, you know what, my top 10 is where it is.
All right.
So
that's kind of how I started the show. I had 5 more to do, and Sean's like, "Let's go," and I'm like, "All right, I'll just write 5 movies down." Is there anything you guys want to talk about prior to going to our top 10s?
Yeah.
There's a Jacob Elordi's bathwater candle. Just saw that just as I was like waiting for my computer to come up.
Was that on Goop?
What's that?
Was that on Goop?
No, just Etsy. And one of my friends who posted it was like, it probably just smells like vanilla. It's an Etsy candle, so it's probably just, I said it would be better if it tasted like salt and pineapple.
Oh my God.
Or smelled like salt and pineapple.
That was when we get to that movie. That's one of my. I wasn't here to show you guys talked about it. I watched it over the weekend. That's where my wife tapped out, and that was like really when the movie started taking off too.
Yeah.
All right. So, are we jumping right into our top tens, or are there any other movies we
I
haven't
do
talked
want to
about?
just do a quick thing on, just honorable mentions, things that didn't make my list.
Do you want
I
to do it
love
at the
Killer.
end?
Oh, okay.
Only because it might be on our list, and then we
Okay.
can knock off all of them that we didn't talk about. I'm just throwing it out there. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
All right. Who wants to start?
Well, I think since Sean has seen movies that we'll never see for 2 years in the Quad Cities, I think he should go so that we can talk about it.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Is I always feel like my list's inferior because there's so many movies I can't see or haven't seen or don't have access to seeing.
Listen, we're looking at Sean's list. I was like, God damn it. Fuck.
All right, Sean, number 10.
You gotta come over to my house more. I don't know what to tell you.
We live like in a 45-minute triangle from one another, don't we?
Something like that. My number 10 is The Zone of Interest, directed by Jonathan Glazer. It was one of the last movies I saw before I made my list. This is a remarkable film about the commandant of Auschwitz and his family living next door to Auschwitz and them going through just their mundane, everyday lives as if they don't live next door to a place that is exterminating Jewish people at a remarkable pace. It is a stunning movie just for what you don't see, because what you are seeing is just this mundane everyday life where these people are just, a package arrives and it's full of stuff that was taken from Jewish people and is now going to be given to these people just because they live next door and he's in charge. So you're just watching his wife like put on a mink coat that belonged to a Jewish person. I mean, just trying it on. It's hers now, and they just treat this like this is just their normal everyday life. You're watching them play in their bizarre, there's this large backyard that they have where they've got a pool and they've got all these, just nice little things spread around so you can just spend time in the garden. Meanwhile, you can see smoke in the background. Their house is lit up at night by fire. And there's only one source where that could be coming from. And it's just the horror of it is just hits you so hard, even though you're not seeing it. Everything that you don't see is in your head the entire time. And that just makes everything so much more horrible. It is an incredible film.
Yeah, just reading your review of it was like, I mean, even you talking about it now, it's like, I want to see this so bad, not for, I mean, it just, I don't know, it seems so smart, just.
Well, it's the director of Under the Skin, too.
Oh, God damn it. Is it available?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know what their release plan is, honestly. It's the release plans this year are so weird. I don't understand what
I
they
think
mean.
it's going to be like that going forward due to streaming, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't even realize that's who the guy was. God, this sucks. I want to see that really bad now.
Who's next?
Jeff, you want to go?
Sure, I'll go. My number 10 is Talk to Me. We talked when you mentioned that earlier. I was like, oh, yeah. It was on my handwritten list, but I when I posed everything into my notes app, I forgot it, and I was like, wait, something should be here, but whatever. It Talk to Me. I watched that again the other night, and it's so different and so fresh and amazing that a couple of these like Australian dude bros could make a movie like this. Yeah, no, I like those guys. They just the premise of it is something so different that you've never really thought about. The performances, everything about it is just top notch, and it was a really good year for horror. And this is one of the best horror movies that came out in 2023. There were, so many. Like, I've got a bunch of honorable mentions that are pretty much horror. I liked the cast. I liked the fact that the little brother, is not one of those annoying little brother characters. so you feel really bad when what happens to him.
Mhm.
Just it's everything about it. I thought was so good, and will keep it in my rotation when I need something in the background.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to it later, but it's everything from beginning to end was just well thought out. At no point is there something that happens that pulls you out of the movie where you're like, yeah, I'm out. I would never do that, or this person would do that. It's just, and it's, I don't know. They just were aware what other movies do, and they did the other thing, or they did their own thing, one or the other. It just, I probably went too high on my list because I didn't think that hard about my list. But that one stuck with me all year, and that's why it's as high as it is when we get to it later.
When I should say too, when I made this, forgetting that I had written it down, it probably would have gone higher for me. I'm probably more of like a number 6 for me.
Quit trying to guess.
I find myself pedestrian my tastes are, but I think that it probably would, when I get to my number 6, that's probably where this would really lie. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it here and knock my number 10 out of the top 10, but just barely. So
that's fair.
I'm a big fan. I thought the ending of this movie was tremendous. What a great ending. I mean, the choices that they made that led up to it made the ending so dramatic and so, purposeful. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal ending.
And I got the hand for Christmas, or I bought it to give to one of my kids, and then neither one of them wanted to watch it, so I just put it in the closet.
My birthday's in April.
Yes.
I'll get you the Jacob Elordi gift. And you can give it to Lindsay.
Oh my God, that is there's so many friends I would give that to. Now that remind me of this at the end of the show, because that is going to be a great gift.
Okay.
All right. My number 10 is Flora and Son. Sean gave us a list of movies to watch towards the end of the year, and I happened to be on the plane, so I downloaded that and watched it on my phone. And anytime there's music involved in a movie and it's well done, I elevate that over a lot of other things. And I could have watched Flora and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character writing songs all day long. I mean, if the whole movie was just them on Zoom, I'd have been fine with that. But the movie itself is phenomenal. Obviously it's about her son who's troubled. You got the father is, basically not much of a father figure. He's only there when he absolutely has to be, when he's guilted into it. And it's just her relationship with him, and her being immature, and just all of that coming together at the right time. It's very frustrating, but at the same time, it's very good. And I'm terrible at talking about this stuff, so I know you saw it, Sean.
I love this movie. Yeah, it's on my honorable mention list. Eve Hewson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, just amazing chemistry. Jack Rayner from Midsommar is in there, as well as the dad, and the kid Oren Kinlan is a very natural kid. He's a teenager who feels like a teenager. He's such a dick. No, but not a complete dick. Not like an overly pronounced dick, but just the right teenage dickishness. It's perfect. But I love the interactions between Eve Hewson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Those scenes of them making music together are just wonderful and romantic and sweet and smart and incredibly well put together. Of course, this is John Carney, who did Once. I mean, I've loved every John Carney movie. Mm-hmm. He doesn't miss for me. Sing Street and Begin Again. He's amazing. I'll watch anything he does.
This might even be my second favorite of all of his. I'm a parent, and I so desperately wanted her to go see him in California or wherever they lived, and that's not the way a parent's supposed to react to this movie. But anyway, it's very good. I hope Josh Adams has had a chance to see it, because I think he'll love it. What do you got for number 9, Sean?
My number 9 is All of Us Strangers, directed by Andrew Hay and starring just a couple of incredible actors, Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal. and the story of a lonely man living in a very empty apartment building in London. He is researching a book about his life and his family, and he goes back to his childhood home, and somehow, through some sort of magic, his parents, played by Claire Foy and Jamie Bell, are there, and they recognize him as an adult, and they welcome him in, and he gets to tell them about his life and who he is. He never got to come out to them because they died when he was so young, and so now this is him, processing through that and telling them who he is now, and processing their responses. And you don't know if this is real magic or if this is just him, a trauma response from him, just kind of going through a lot. I think the movie does kind of settle on something in terms of an answer, but I think there's just enough there for you to kind of also, draw your own conclusions. Andrew Scott is incredible in this movie. He's going to make you cry. Just if you're going to watch this movie, just be prepared. You're going to cry because he's that amazing. And then the movie ends in a way that I just did not. I mean, I should have expected, but I didn't. And that's a whole other thing that I won't spoil. But All of Us Strangers is an exceptional film, and I do hope people get to see it. I don't know what their release plan is for this. I don't know why they've screwed up the release so bad.
So your last two movies could be on Jeff and my top 24 or top 2024 movies next year,
right?
Possibly.
Yeah, they should be.
I'm so jealous that you've got to see this, because I've been looking forward to this one for months. I was just really hoping that, get to see it, but who knows when it's coming out?
No idea. Like I said, the release plan for some of these movies that are supposed to be Academy Award contenders, it truly makes no sense why they've decided to just put them out the way they have and not release anything new over the holiday season. Is bizarre.
Jeff, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is When Evil Lurks, which I finally got. This holiday season has been super busy because I'm working retail right now and have not gotten to the theater. So I really wanted to see Poor Things and The Color Purple, and those may go on my top 24. I don't know. But I watched this last night finally after having it in my queue for literally a month. It was such an original idea. It's two brothers, and it takes place in Argentina, and evil is possessing people in their town, and it opens up where this guy is going to shoot this other guy, and the kid's like, no, don't shoot him, because if you shoot him, the evil gets out, and then it'll possess other people. And you find out that there are rules for possession that it can possess animals much easier. So don't stay away from animals. Don't turn on electric lights, because the shadows is where it lives. Don't take any of its stuff, of the person who's possessed, and don't take any of their stuff because they're very jealous. Don't call it by its name. It's such an interesting idea of evil and how it gets around to different, people, and how it infects others. There is one scene where one of the brothers' ex-wives, who he's gone to take his children back. One of his children has severe autism, and the other one is younger and doesn't seem to have any issues. And there's a scene where the ex-wife is possessed later in the movie, and this is kind of not really a spoiler because it doesn't really affect anything, but there's this moment where she jumps off a balcony with the little baby in her arm, or the little child in her arms, and you're just like, I mean, that's not how anything ends or whatever, but it's just that shocking moment in a shocking kind of film that it's so original. There's a moment right at the end of the movie where you're kind of realizing something, that there's just a look that somebody gives one of the brothers that you're just like, oh my God, holy shit. It was just so well done, and such a kind of a revelation, and again, a year of great horror movies that, and it, one that I want to sit and watch with an audience sometime, because it's just so shocking in points and original. I really want you guys to eventually check it out.
It sounds
That
really
was-
good.
I figured since Sean had all get to see, I might as well have something else.
Is it a foreign film?
It is. It's in Spanish. I watched it with English
Well,
subtitles.
I have no problem. It's when I watch movies, I have to usually find stuff with my wife, and she likes to have her phone out. And when you have your phone out, you're not reading very well, and then you get bored and you make me turn it off, or you walk out of the room. But I will have to find time alone then. But that sounds really, really good. My number 9 is Rebel Moon. Sorry, I didn't.
Really?
No, I didn't watch it.
I was like, wait a minute.
I have May December. This is where I think this is probably way higher on your guys' list.
Mhm.
I have several movies. I think I agree this is a great year for movies. There's just a lot that I have like at the same level, and this is one of them, largely due to the performances. But for some reason, it didn't. Like, there's 4 movies that really, or 3 movies that really pulled me out. They're just like, this is awesome, and they're kind of lazy and predictable choices too. On top of that, but this is very good. It's awesome, and I feel guilty for having it so low. But it's just, I think it's more due to the fact that it was a great year for movies, and really we're just kind of splitting hairs at this point. And I mean, I think Sean kind of said, you know, your top 30, you were almost doing that, weren't you? You said you had all your top 10 were 5-star movies, and that's very rare.
Probably up to the 14. Obviously, the top 14 were probably rated 5 stars on Letterboxd by me. So yeah, it's a great year for movie.
So I apologize for having it at number 9, but it is a great movie, and that's where it landed. We'll get to it with you guys because you talk better about movies than I do. Number 8, Sean.
Number 8 for me is another one you guys haven't seen yet, and I guess a lot of people haven't seen yet if you're outside of a major city. American Fiction, directed by Cord Jefferson. His feature film debut is perhaps the funniest movie of the year. This has got so many big laughs in it, and yet it's also a movie that is relatively grounded and realistic. It's a movie about a guy named Monk, played by Jeffrey Wright, who is an author and college professor. He does not suffer fools gladly. He lets people know what he's thinking all the time. He's not always right, but he's not always wrong either. The movie plays very fair with that. He ends up getting very, very frustrated by seeing so-called black media about poverty porn, essentially. All this about everything's about gangsters and so on. And he's so sick of seeing that he finally just sits down one night and writes his own version of that, and it sells for nearly $1 million. He's struggling with the fact that he wrote this, and people are enjoying it, and it's so frustrating to him because he wrote it as a shitpost, entirely as a shitpost. And he's just, the rest of the movie is him dealing with that, but he also has a sister played by Tracy Ellis Ross, who has a story going on, and his brother Sterling K. Brown has a story that is just very funny. It's just him coming out of the closet and really living for the first time in his 40s as a gay man and really having a good time. This movie is tremendous. And like I said, it's got maybe the 3 biggest laughs I've heard this year. The best Roe v. Wade joke I've ever heard in my life is in this movie, but there's just a couple of really phenomenal scenes, one of which is just him and another black author trying to explain to 3 white authors why they think this book is terrible. And them going, well, we really need to listen to black voices, though.
Well, and it's been a great year for comedies, too. I mean, No Hard Feelings, Cocaine Bear, The Pope's Exorcist. It's really been It's cool to see that one made your list. It sounds awesome.
It's so good. I can't wait for people to see it. I don't know what
that we can't see these right now.
It's frustrating that the studios are fucking up these releases so badly. Yeah.
We need to trick them into giving us screeners, Jeff.
Yeah, one of my New Year's resolutions is to become a professional critic so that I can get screeners.
I think if we worked hard, I mean, I know there's certain screeners going to my old email, but not these. So I know it's just a matter. We were getting A24 for a while. I'm sure I still am to an extent, but it's I just don't want to dig through everything else in that email. But someday. What do you got for number 8, Jeff?
My number 8 is Barbie. I had a really good time, a really good experience seeing it. My whole list is like, anything could move up at any time. I just had to get it ready for the show, so I put this at number 8. Seeing the reactions in the theater, I think elevated it a little bit for me. And Ryan Gosling, who I don't give a shit about Ryan Gosling. I don't care about him. I didn't care about La La Land, so I'm not on the Ryan Gosling dick writing thing or anything. He's fine, but he was so good in this movie that I was like, I want him to get a supporting actor nomination because the whole patriarchy storyline was just, he was so good in that. Margot Robbie is Barbie to me some ways, so that was it wasn't as much of a revelation for me. The whole conception of what Barbie world is from Greta Gerwig, that really, it's just there's just a tinge of dark to it, and I think that's why I loved it so much, because it's exactly what you think a Barbie movie will be, with just a tinge of black humor to it. So, and America Ferrera's speech is just everything. So.
Yeah, it's an honorable mention on my list, and I just had the wonderful experience over the New Year's weekend of showing that film to my best friend, and watching her reaction to it was really emotional all over again. And then we followed that up by watching Saltburn, and I got to watch her react to that. It's a good weekend for me.
Listen, any movie that makes Ben Shapiro freak out is going on my top 10.
I actually had Barbie at number 8 as well. Again, everything Jeff said. Greta Gerwig is one of my favorite directors, and I mean, I don't really know what else I can add. It's not, you can't just say this movie is a women empowerment movie and that's all it is. It's so much more than just one thing. Everything is, I don't know, the whole thing is just so well done. The reaction to it is great from both, like what Jeff just said, the negative reaction is just as much fun as all the positive reaction to it. It's fun, but it's smart, it's fair. It's a damn good movie, and part of me was like, should I leave it off? Am I supposed to leave it off? But I mean, that was a fun weekend. But I mean, Oppenheimer came out that weekend too. Another great movie, I think, is on all of our lists. But I love the movie, and I'm always trying to get people to see it that haven't seen it.
Same.
Number 7, Sean.
My number 7 is Priscilla, directed by Sofia Coppola, and just an incredible performance by Kaylee Spaney, giving life to the life story of Lisa Marie Presley, and it's such an amazing film. It gets better for me the further I get away from it. As bad as most biopics have been lately, this one takes the life of Priscilla Presley and just puts it into such an amazing perspective through. Using it to examine other issues, specifically the issues of emotional and financial abuse, are not front and center, but they're there, and they're presented in a way that's very easy for people to understand. And considering that those two types of abuse are so misunderstood. It makes this film incredibly valuable in that way, but it's also just a great looking movie and an incredibly well acted movie with a very compelling story.
I was hoping to get to this movie this weekend. However, some friends saw it, and while they liked it, they said it was boring, so it was really hard to get my wife to be like, yeah, let's watch that one. So I haven't seen that one yet. Jeff, what do you got for number 7?
My number 7 is Oppenheimer. I realize that this is a lot of people's, like top 3 movies this year. The reason I put it where it is because of Robert Downey Jr. I think watching it again, he kind of stole the movie for me. He like elevated a little bit what I thought was a little overlong. I'm not a huge Cillian Murphy fan. I think I said this when the movie came out, but I thought his performance was really good. It's at the time, I believe I said that it was one of those things where, every director has their go-tos, and Christopher Nolan, Cillian Murphy is one of his go-tos. Like Scorsese goes towards Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever. So I thought that I would have I would have probably liked to have seen how Robert Downey Jr. had played the part. After watching it again and watching his performance was so good that I I wonder if he could have done this. But the first time I watched it, I didn't love it. The second time I loved it, and I really got a chance to sit with the performances a little bit more. I was able to break it up a little bit too, which everybody knows by now that one of my issues is when a movie is 3 hours long, I kind of wish it was a series at that point. And I would have loved to have seen more of this as a limited run series or something, but being able to break it up really brought it to my top 10 because I was able to sit with the performances a little more and get to see, Florence Pugh and Robert Downey Jr. and just watching everybody interact and the kind of gotcha moments and things like that really elevated it for me.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it later. This one's embarrassing. My number 7 is Blackberry. I'm a sucker for business movies, and it was either this or Air, and Sean did a great job of pulling Air apart, even though I didn't totally agree, but I just figured I'd go with Blackberry instead. But I don't know, I just found the whole movie fascinating. The idiocracy in it, how stupid the decisions some of them made. The heightened reality, just slightly heightened enough to make it work for me. I don't know. It was just the type of movie I like, and so it's on my list.
I'm sure as a businessman, it probably appealed to you as well because you've got to feel like a little bit insight into what these guys are doing here, and especially into these personalities. So you've got nothing to be embarrassed about. That's a great movie, and Glenn Howerton is fantastic in that movie. I mean, it's not an easy character to play because you could go very, very, very big, and he went big, but he didn't go so big that that he lost the plot. I really enjoyed. There's this whole hockey team subplot that is it's minor, but I think it shows that character in a completely different light from this guy who's going in and screaming at people all day to this guy who's really just really excited about hockey. So I dug that aspect of it. I did like that movie a lot.
Well, I think everybody knows it, but the further and further you go up the ladder, the more and more there's a different way of realizing how big of idiots everybody really is. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and see it, but the further and further you go, you just the more and more human they become, and the more I don't know. It's fun to see that because you deal with you know, I'm saying a lot, where you imposter syndrome or whatever. You don't feel like you belong there, but then all of a sudden you kind of look around and you're like, oh my god, this guy's just as dumb as me. I mean, it's just like, everybody always tells you when you're a kid, someday you'll learn what your parents are going through. And what I learned is my parents are morons. They're just people. They're not smarter than me. They're just, and I movies like this do a really great job of capturing that, because it's very true. I mean, Air does too on a different level. It just happened to work out, so it's a fun story, and Michael Jordan's involved. But if that falls flat on its face, it's Blackberry. So either way, I find it fascinating. And then, like you said, Glenn, who plays Dennis on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, he's so known by that role, and to truly not have you thinking about that show while you're watching this movie is a pretty impressive thing for him as well. So I love that movie, and it's on my top 10. Number 6.
Number 6 for me is May December. Going back to that one, Todd Haynes directing. I love those performances. Julianne Moore, Natalie Portman, Charles Melton, just all fantastic. But Melton's a revelation. The way he plays that character, he brings such a subtlety to it, and then when he has to go big in his big scene, he does it so beautifully. It's so touching and so emotional. The way he brought that character to life, and taking a story that had been mangled by our culture, and bringing it back to a human element is just so amazing. What Todd Haynes has done with this movie.
Jeff,
my number 6 is Beau is Afraid. I feel some of the stuff that I picked, I think, is more recency bias, but this one, it's an Ari Aster movie, so I automatically have to love it. I think that's the rule of being on the show. I'm just kidding.
Yes. You almost got kicked off.
It is a barrier.
Yeah, right?
When you said 6, I'm like, what the fuck? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I only have seen this once, so that is the reason that it's not probably a little higher, because I wasn't able to pick out all the nuance and whatever. I remember the experience of seeing it that I loved a lot. Again, this anything on my list can go up and down.
Right.
And something I picked that's a little higher of that, I know, is recency bias. I know it's because I just can't, however, this is, as my friend Justin, who is a Jewish guy in his 30s and 40s, has said, it is a horror movie for Jewish guys in their 30s and 40s because of that whole Jewish guilt from the mother and Patti LuPone's performance. So I'm going to take his word for that. But just how it slowly builds and everything, is his anxiety, is it just manifesting, or is it just an illustration of his anxiety? How to take it, just brilliantly done. And again, it's Ari Aster. You have to watch it. You have to love it. Because he's such a good director, and the way he has directed Joaquin Phoenix in this, I think, is pretty revelatory. I think this is probably his most personal movie.
Yeah. Ooh. I was listening to a podcast, this Conan O'Brien's podcast, and Jordan Peele was on, and they do this card game. They didn't do it on the show, but they talked about how they would create a movie by just dealing cards and then trying to take a plot this way and that way. And Jordan Peele said he did it with Ari Aster, and it got so far off the rails he couldn't bring it back in. And he called him the, kind of the heavyweight champion of horror right now. Although I don't know that he called Beau is Afraid a horror movie. But yeah, 2 3-hour movies in a row on your list. That's pretty. You just said you hate 3-hour movies.
There are some movies that I'm a little like, all right, does not need to be 3 hours. This movie needed to be 3 hours. Oppenheimer needed to be 6 hours and could have been a limited series because there was so much information in it.
Right.
So,
I have Saltburn at number 6. Definitely recency bias, but it was very, very good. And I think we should wait till it gets on someone else's list to really talk about it. So
Fair enough. It won't be on mine, so you'll have to rely on having it on.
He gave me his list, so I know.
I don't hate it. I don't hate that.
No, it's awesome.
I like it a lot, actually.
Well, it's like I've been apologizing for my list, and I think Jeff has to an extent too. We really don't need to. It's been a great year for movies, and it's good that we have different movies on our list. Sean, what do you have for number 5?
My number 5 is Monica, directed by Andrea Palauro and starring Trace Lysette and Patricia Clarkson, in a story of a trans woman who is returning home to see her mother, who is dying. They haven't seen each other in 20 years. When she left, Monica, she left for good, and at the time she was only beginning her transition, and now she's fully transitioned into being a woman. And her mother, who is going through brain cancer, may not know who she is or be able to understand who she is anymore. And the emotions of that are played so beautifully and so quietly in this film that it's hauntingly beautiful how they carry out this story, and they create this bond between Trace Lysette and Patricia Clarkson that is so fraught with so many layers of different emotions. It has one of the best scenes in any movie all year. There's just this quiet exchange between the two of them that is just, it's open to interpretation what it exactly is being said, but truly it's remarkable to watch. And Patricia Clarkson in this movie is so amazing. She's bitter and hard and angry, but also desperately frail and sad and kind of sympathetic. A lot sympathetic, but at the same time, she's treated her daughter horribly. So you've got all these this wild mixture of emotions, and all of it happening very quietly, because Andrea Palauro establishes this very realistic tone that all of the emotion is basically is in you. You're generating the emotion while you're watching it, and you're interpreting the emotions of the characters. It's an incredible film. I wish more people had a chance to see it. And I think if they had, Patricia Clarkson and Trace Lysette would be more talked about in the Academy Award conversations.
Jeff, number 5.
My number 5, this is recency bias, and I know it's just because I like horror movies more than most people. Mine is Thanksgiving. It's such a fun throwback. This the same day I saw The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I hated that movie. And I went into this in a kind of a bad mood, and I left. This and The Marvels are the two movies that I had the most fun at, like watching and enjoying all year. Just having fun. The ridiculousness of this is, I mean, you've got, first of all, you find out that Gina Gershon is pregnant, and what is she, 60?
Spoiler alert.
Just stuff like, yeah, well.
Sean's going to be upset when he watches it now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he's never going to watch this movie.
I know.
Although I think he should. It just was so much fun, and there was just so much of a throwback to 80s slash that it has stayed with me. It is one that I watched 2 more times. I went to see it in the theater and watched it at home, and recommended it to everybody who is a horror fan. Plus my friend Lynn Griffin is in it, if only for just one scene. She's actually in 2 movies of my top 10, so not because it's her, but it's fun. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. I think it's streaming now. It was fun. It was such a fun movie.
Oh yeah,
Eli Roth has redeemed himself. in my eyes.
Even though we filmed it in Toronto, I'm going to Plymouth this summer just because of this movie. Now my wife's from Plymouth, but I love Thanksgiving too. For some reason I always feel bad about putting fun movies on my list, but this was definitely one of this and some of the comedies we talked about were like sitting there in that honorable mention, maybe 10. But Thanksgiving is so good, people need to see it. My number 5 is not as fun. Infinity Pool. I'm sure we're going to talk about that again later as well. But what I like most about since doing the podcast is just, we have the conversations that are even make the movie better. May and December, we had that conversation a few weeks back. But when we did Infinity Pool, that show, that was so much fun, the conversation we had while we were doing it. And that's stuck with me since then. And so not only do I have the movie, but I have, that particular episode that really helped elevate that type of movie up the list. It's just such a unique idea. It's so well done, so crazy. Everything about it just, I never forgot about it the whole year, and I saw it a while ago. So, and I've only seen it that one time. And so it stuck with me to the point where it needed to be, that high up on my list.
Mm-hmm. It's not on my list, but it would be another honorable mention. I think the biggest issue for me is that it happened so long ago that I still remember it and I still love it, but I don't remember it and love it as much as I love these other films.
Well, yeah, you also have a lot more to choose from than we do.
This is definitely on my honorable mentions. Again, Mia Goth.
Yes.
I will literally watch anything she's in after seeing X and Pearl. Her performance in this movie is just every scene it gets ratcheted up and ratcheted up and ratcheted up, and that scene where everybody's going home, you're just like, oh my god, isn't anybody gonna say anything?
Mm-hmm.
Skarsgård is such a perfect guy to deconstruct in that role. He's he's just the perfect guy to have his masculinity just sort of torn down in front of him, and it's really fun to watch.
He's always in on the joke about his masculinity too.
Mm-hmm.
He's confident enough that he can go to an award show in his underwear. That's the kind of guy he is, and that really comes through in this performance.
Right.
Definitely.
But he's also not like Ryan Reynolds would be too obvious and too popular for this role. So he's the perfect level of famous too with that. Sean, number 4.
My number 4 is Oppenheimer. This is based off of I watched it again recently, and it's just so incredible. The whole scope and breadth of it. It really is a modern epic. And the way that he encompasses essentially, the last 60, 70 years of American history into this one story is just because everything stems from this when you really break it down. And he doesn't put that on screen, but it's all there nevertheless. It's really remarkable. But then, Cillian Murphy for me just grounds this movie in a place that is very human, and that's that human element. Just when we were talking about this before with Blackberry, like the idea that these people are making these gigantic decisions that are going to kill millions of people, and they're not really sure about it. There really is no way for them to be sure about it. And it's kind of bizarre that anyone has that kind of power. And this movie deconstructs that perhaps better than any movie that's ever approached that idea. There's a scene in this movie that's just so incredibly powerful to me, where this arrogant asshat just goes, well, don't bomb Kyoto. My family went there for Christmas the other year. It was beautiful. We don't want to bomb that. Find something else to bomb. I mean, that reminds me of Zone of Interest. Like, that's the same idea as Zone of Interest. Like, that is just as bad as Nazis living next door to Auschwitz. Just like going through there every day. That's exactly the same thing to me. And that level of just brutal evil, and that movie brings it home in one fucking scene with one fucking character brilliantly. But it's just the whole scope of it. I mean, there's been this whole debate about sex in the movies or nudity in the movies, where the modern generation is becoming very timid about the idea of sex in movies. And I think the sex in Oppenheimer, I wrote an entire article just about the nudity in the movie because it is story driven. It is essential to the dynamic of Oppenheimer, of Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh, their characters. That dynamic is essential. It's an essential sexual connection that they have that has to be there. That's brilliant that he was able to make. It's not gratuitous. It's necessary, and I really appreciated that. I really appreciate everything about this, though, including Robert Downey Jr., who does deserve to win Best Supporting Actor for that role because he's incredible. And Alden Ehrenreich should be right there with him.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
What is your number 4, Jeff?
My number 4 is Bottoms. I just thinking about this movie. It was so great. Because it's so like, it's such an unconventional comedy where, like the leads being queer it just doesn't, it's just something that's there. And since I saw it with a conservative Midwesterns, it was funny. That was all, I mean, Rachel Sennett not only wrote and acted in it that, just so perfectly that I didn't really know who she was. Io Adibri, I've seen her on The Bear, and she was just such a different character in this movie that I just realized what a range she actually has. Her kind of like gay geek thing going on was one of my favorite performances of the year. I'd love to see her get nominated for something, but who knows? Kaya Gerber, who played Brittany, who is Cindy Crawford's daughter, who looks exactly like Cindy Crawford. The way that she's just so casual about, being as gorgeous as she is, and wants everybody to know I have a brain too. I just, everybody in this cast was funny, and you really felt for the two leads, and one of them to get what they wanted, even though it was a little like predatory. But it was predatory in the way that, an American Pie movie is, where the guys are the kind of predatory ones, and it's fine. And they just played it like an American Pie movie, and I think that's what I loved the most about it. Mm-hmm. It was just a matter of fact, let's fuck these girls kind of movie, but it just so happened to be two girls who wanted to fuck these two girls. So,
yeah, that matter of factness is such an essential part of the comedy there. That's the last movie I left off of my top 10 was Bottoms. It was right there until I saw Zone of Interest, and then I had to put Zone of Interest on, and it's such a wonderful film, and Emma Seligman is such a great director. Her previous film with Rachel Sennett is amazing. Like, she put an actual like anxiety attack on screen in that movie. It's so amazing. But Bottoms is just it's just so funny. It's relentlessly funny. It is funny beginning to end. She takes a character played by a football player, Marshawn Lynch, and she just does an amazing job of capturing what makes him so funny. It's such a funny performance, and you just don't expect it from that guy in this movie. It's so amazing. I really loved it.
I haven't got a chance to see it yet, but I need to, so I will circle that one. My number 4 we've talked about already is Talk to Me. Just kind of a straight ahead horror movie done in a very creative way. It's all I can really say about it. I love horror movies, but I hate IPs being reused, and that's unfortunately what a lot of horror fans have to deal with nowadays. Although this has been a great year to not have to do that. And Talk to Me just was like the perfect middle of the road horror movie that did everything right and unique and original, and it just stuck out with me, and to me, other than the fact that everything's so disposable now, I think the whole idea behind it is something that should stick with the kids that watch it today for the rest of their lives, and whether that does or not, who knows, but I think it's good enough that it could. And I don't know, I just love that movie. Sean, number 3, Break My Heart.
My number 3 is Beau is Afraid, directed by Ari Aster. And it's hard to believe I found 2 movies that are better than an Ari Aster movie, but I did. I adore Beau is Afraid. I was blown away by it when we all saw it, and I was blown away by it again just recently when I was kind of thinking about writing an article, because there's this whole thing about sex going on, and sex in movies, and people being made uncomfortable about sex in movies. And I wanted to write about that Mariah Carey scene, because that scene just blows my mind that has ever ended up in a movie. I mean, it's so amazing. When that song starts to play, at that point in the movie, it's already been just wildly surreal. And now we've arrived at a point where this guy, of all people, is actually going to apparently have sex. And they're going to put on Mariah Carey, Always Be My Baby. And it's just, what is this doing here? What is going on? And the way the scene ends is so shocking and horrifying. It's amazing. It is a miracle that anything Ari Aster does gets to be in a movie. And that it gets to be in a movie that is so mind-blowing in how he puts it all together and makes it all work. I don't love this as much as I love Midsommar, but it's right there with Hereditary, and I can mix them up as a threesome very easily. But truly, this is another incredible movie by Ari Aster, and I just can't say enough good things.
Yeah. And shout out, sorry, Bob, but you talked about that scene where they're going to have sex, and shout out to Parker Posey.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
bravery.
She's such a good actor anyway, but she doesn't get enough credit because she puts in these bizarre performances. I'm thinking of Lee in Scream 3, or Mary in Party Girl. She's just so good in this movie that she's worth seeing the movie for, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Bob. Oh no, I'll talk about it later. What's your number 3, Jeff?
My number 3 is Priscilla. I know that when we talked about this before, I talked about how it came across as a kind of a plain biopic, but then I read the book, Priscilla Presley's Elvis and Me, and watched it again, and I was just like, okay, all those scenes of her just kind of sitting there, where I was in the theater kind of like, all right, yeah, we get it, she's bored. Having read the book helped that a lot, and then seeing it again, it really just kind of brought everything home for me. She's, Sofia Coppola shows yet again why she was the one to tackle something like this that's a more complex than just not necessarily an abusive relationship, although it does come across as abusive to a lot, and how abuse takes many forms. She treated it with just the right level of, is it or isn't it, I guess.
All right. My number 3 has been on everybody else's list. Is Oppenheimer. This has been a great year for epic movies too. It's like we got The Godfather and Vertigo and all these movies coming out in the same year. It's kind of like in terms of the epics and everything, there's really nothing more to say about Oppenheimer, at least with my level of intelligence. But again, the weekend it came out made it more fun. The fact that it's just so well done, the performances are as good as any other movie, if not better. Everything behind it. I mean, the fact that how it all plays out, but when they're testing the atom bomb, you're on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
But they, I don't like to give Nolan credit because I do think he's made a lot of shit, But in this one, and the reason it's actually so low is just because I can't put him ahead of another guy we'll get to later. But I absolutely love this movie. And then again, the experience of, I actually went with my 11-year-old who was invested in talking the whole time and understanding what was going on. And just all the subtleties in it, along with the epic stuff, just the way it's put together is so perfect. And it's awesome. Number 2, Sean.
My number 2 is Past Lives, directed by Celine Song. This is a story about a woman whose childhood friend, love connection, comes back into her life years later after she's been married for a while, and they get together. They're reminiscing, and it's just about this connection that they had, that they still kind of have, and the various different reasons why it never worked out for them, and exploring kind of what might have been, while also appreciating what you already have. There's this amazing scene, just the first scene in the film, where we're sitting across the bar from these 3 people. We can't hear what they're talking about, but there are 3 people who are watching them and having a conversation about them and trying to figure out what their dynamic is. Who's the husband? Who's the wife? Who's the other guy? And that sets up the story so beautifully of what we're going to find out that in the rest of the story. It's so ingenious and so well plotted, but also just such smart acting throughout. Every performance is so necessary and so essential and so brilliantly part of it. It's just so great. Greta Lee, Tio Yu, and John Magaro, just a phenomenal threesome. They're the only 3 actors really in the movie, and they just do this amazing job of communicating so much life and so much history, and it's so romantic and so beautiful and kind of heartbreaking, and I get choked up thinking about it. That's how good it is.
Jeff?
I didn't get to see it. My number 2 is May December. I watched it again after we talked about it, and just I can't get it out of my head. And it mostly is stuff like, the performances really, Charles Melton especially. His scene in the bedroom after he's with Natalie Portman is one of my favorite scenes all year long. And the fact that this is on Netflix and not in a theater really pisses me off, because I feel like not everybody's going to rush to see it now. And I wanted it to get the recognition. I know that, it had its theatrical run for like a couple of performances in a couple cities so that it could be eligible for Oscars. And I really wanted to be nominated for a lot, because I just think everybody in it is doing their absolute best work. We just recently talked about it, so I don't feel like I have to go into great detail, but
well, you have a good point there, though. I think it's higher on my list if it's in the theater and I see it with an audience. Honestly, because I'm so much of my list is based on the experience around the movie, not so much the movie itself. Mm-hmm. And while we had a great conversation on the podcast, I think I even said it when we talked about it. I wish I would have saw it in the theater with an audience, because I think it would have hit me even better than it did. All right. Oh, I guess it's on me, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. We're waiting.
I was like, all right, Sean, number 1, but I haven't done number 2 yet. This is not on either of your lists, but I believe you both have it as an honorable mention. I have Killers of the Flower Moon. I love this movie. In my top 3 are 3-hour epics. But I don't know. I put this up there with everything Scorsese's ever done. I think it's that good, and I enjoyed being in the theater the entire time, despite how long it was. I have every intention to see it again. I think it's kind of a throwback to, like I was saying, the 60s and 70s and all the great epic movies they had back then that we don't get as much anymore. And I think they don't play as well today as they did then. But everything about this movie is so well done. The fact that you have these A-list stars and Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, and they're playing second fiddle to, I can't think of the actress's name.
Lily Gladstone.
Yeah, but she is the center of this movie. She carries this movie all by herself, and it's so selfless by everybody else in the movie to do their job, really. So it's really not selfless. They're doing their job. But it's so cool to follow the way the movie plays out. And even though you're following his character, she's the glue holding it together, and also the plot moving forward around her. I just really, really love this movie, and it's my number 2.
It's an honorable mention for me. I love it also. Again, I've seen so many movies. I had a lot of choices. I had a lot of movies enter late that had to reshape my entire list. But it's a 5-star on Letterboxd for me, and because it is such an incredible movie. And DiCaprio is incredibly underrated as far as I'm concerned in this film, because he is doing such a generous job of elevating and being kind of the pivot point for the other performances for De Niro and for Lily Gladstone. The way that they're playing him, and he's elevating them with his work is I think an underrated talent that he doesn't get enough credit for. I think he did the same thing in Wolf of Wall Street, which is not a movie I like, but
right.
he elevated everyone around him with his performance and made them all better. And I think that's what he's doing here. Is he's playing his part to the best of his ability, but he's also giving them, like I said, a pivot point for the bigger, more important points that are being made.
Yeah, and I want to make the joke. I have to put Scorsese ahead of Nolan every time, but I really do like it better than Oppenheimer, even though they're my 2 and 3. I like them. I love them both, but I don't know. And I just think there's something with him and Tarantino are 2 guys I'm always drawn to, and Fincher too, even though Fincher's movie didn't make my list. I probably tend to overvalue their movies every year, but this one stands out, especially recently. There hasn't been anything this great from him in a while, and I hold it up with everything he's ever done.
Absolutely.
Number 1.
My number 1, I debated actually not even putting this on my list because at the time I watched it, I was going through something like super emotional, like a very serious, depressive episode, and I really thought that nothing could bring me out of that, and I knew I had this kind of obligation to get through a couple of movies, and so I went with this one, a movie called Perfect Days by Wim Wenders. And even through this fog that I was in of just this intense sadness, this movie reached to me, and it pulled me up. It made me feel at a moment when I couldn't think of feeling joy. It made me feel joy, and it's a really unusual story. Wim Wenders was invited to Japan by a friend to come look at these public restrooms that they built. They hired artists to come up with concepts for public restrooms. Then they built 10 of them, and they invited Wim Wenders there on the thought that maybe he'd see these and be inspired to make a short film about them that could promote them to people. And instead, he went and viewed these public toilets, and he was inspired to write an entire film about a guy whose job it is to maintain these, and the pride that he takes in his work, and the joy he gets out of his very small, very rudimentary routine of cleaning these artistic public restrooms, and taking a moment to sit in the park and watch the way the light comes through the trees and take pictures of that, and listening to classic rock or listening to just classic music in general. Like the needle drops in this movie are incredible throughout, and you just don't expect that. And at a certain point, this woman sings House of the Rising Sun in Japanese, and it's one of the most beautiful things I think I've ever heard in my life. It's not something I ever would have expected to hear in my life, and it was just so beautiful. The use of music, the use of these incredible public restrooms, which they are artistic marvels, what they've come up with. Technologically and just visually, they're spectacular. And I love the idea that this guy just takes pride in, kind of being a part of that, even if his job is to just clean toilets. It's a beautiful film. It's just, and it just touched me so deeply that I had to put it number one.
Jeff,
I want to see that. I hate to do this, but I had to because I just kept going back and forth on what my favorite movie of the year was. I have a tie. My tie is Saltburn and Godzilla -1. Ordinarily, I'm not a Godzilla fan. I went to see it for the show because that's what we do, and I'd heard good things about it. And I was just completely struck with how well they got the human story right, because every Godzilla movie that comes out, especially the American ones, say we're going to get the human story right, because it's always just smashing Tokyo or wherever, but this time we're going to do the human story right. They said that with the two that came out within the last 15 years, and no, you didn't. I don't care about Bryan Cranston's family. But this was just, everything was it was beautifully shot. It was suspenseful. The performances that everybody gave, again, that's kind of my thing this year, is looking at the performances and how it elevates things. Godzilla looked amazing. The destruction was, I saw this 3 times in the theater.
Wow.
Because I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm not just, blowing smoke up my own ass, I guess, about it. But I loved it so much that it made me start to go back and watch other Godzilla movies from, the 50s and 60s and etc. And then it was tied, and I don't know if it's recency bias, if it's just the zeitgeist talking, but Saltburn, the more I think about it, the more I can get out of my head. The performances, again, Rosamund Pike is just, I hated her, and it was her character in Gone Girl. Just hated her. I just thought, oh my God, what a see you next Tuesday. She was so funny in this movie, and so did you see the movie where she was a pharmaceutical, or no, the nursing home executive? Oh God, what is it? She had the super blunt haircut. She was so good, and it was last year.
I didn't see that one.
It was a Netflix movie, and it was so good. She was so good in it, and so evil, that I was like, oh, she likes playing these evil characters. Well, here in Saltburn, she's just this dumb socialite who doesn't think about anything except herself, even to the point where when people in her family start dying, spoiler alert, she's still, how does this affect me? What am I going to say to people? That kind of thing. Barry Keoghan, we've talked about this before. He is ugly hot, but the hotness comes from the magneticism that he just exudes. In every movie that I've seen him in, even in the Eternals, he's the one that kind of leaps off the screen. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that he does in this movie, and the performance that he gives while he's doing these things, like fucking a mound of dirt, I literally want to go back and see anything he's ever done. And strictly because of this movie. And special shout out to Carey Mulligan, one of the funniest parts of this movie, like the darkest of comedies, one of the funniest parts about it was her and her performance, and you kept wanting her to come back. And then and this is not really a spoiler because it's just tossed off, but oh, she died. Didn't you know? Her character just dies in the middle of it, and it's off screen. It's just, I'm having ice cream for dessert. Oh, did you know she died? That kind of just mundane thing. And this movie, every time I think about it, I want to watch it again to the point where I was running errands and I was looking at my list again just to make sure. And I was like, I want to go home and skip the show tonight just to watch this movie again. So that's probably my number one. But it's just, God, it's so good and so fucked up. And yeah, please, everybody watch it.
Emerald
And,
Fennell, I just watched it again just this past weekend, and she's such a great director. She's so great at killing Carey Mulligan. I do it every time. Um, but
I'm glad we didn't get another 2.5 minute sequence of her being choked to death because I couldn't take that again.
Barry Keoghan is he's the most unpredictable actor. He has so much unpredictable energy. He's one of these rare actors where you don't know what he's going to do next. He's had that in every performance. If you've not seen The Killing of a Sacred Deer, Yorgos Lanthimos, wow. I mean, you want to see Barry Keoghan. Oh boy. And The Green Knight, his brief appearance in The Green Knight is incredible. Incredible. He's just everything every time. He nails it every fucking time. And here he is in this lead role. And I mean, just amazing to watch him just emerge into this character, this performance, to that ending, which is just perfect. It's a perfect ending.
After we talked about this, Sean, you and I went back and watched The Green Knight and concentrated on him again, and I was just like, oh, God, he's so good.
And Godzilla, I did see Godzilla. I did love Godzilla -1 as well. And again, it does come back to that human element of it that really does make it so memorable. Make it so that guy. The main character is a guy who was supposed to fly his plane into a U.S. ship in World War II. He was supposed to be a kamikaze pilot, and he refused. And that will kind of carries forward throughout the rest of the movie in his story, the shame and the pain that he feels of not being able to do what so many other heroic Japanese Zero fighters did, and that the way that colors the rest of his performance is so beautiful, and it's so just so perfectly underlines the story that they're also telling with Godzilla rising up and destroying the country and giving him another opportunity perhaps to be a hero.
Awesome. I haven't seen Godzilla yet. And now the anticlimactic ending. When everyone's Beau's afraid. Again, back to the experience watching it. All three of us were there along with Josh and his son, and then hanging out afterwards for however long it was, half an hour, 45 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know. It was, I don't know. That's the kind of stuff I'm lacking or been missing, and we got to have that with Beau's Afraid, and then to do the show on top of that. Then you throw in the fact that Ari Aster is just one of the best directors working. I think on a technical level, he has a handle of a movie better than any other director does. It doesn't make it the best, but he just has full control over everything, no matter how complicated it is. And he goes out there to make it as messed up and confusing as he can, but he never loses control of that. And it seems like every other good director has that movie where they lose control, and he hasn't yet. And I just think that's impressive. He reminds me of, I think I've compared him to like a prog rock band before. You just really never know where the music's going to go, whether it's King Crimson or even someone like Tool. It doesn't necessarily make it the best, but I do think on a technical level, he is the best. And I don't know, for putting all that together, it's just the one that stands out. And I haven't gone back and watched it again. I want to. I'm looking forward to it. And then you just got the bias of the fact that it's him, and he's one of my favorite directors.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the first two were so perfect, and I do think this was perfect. But I think it's my third favorite of the three. But yeah, Beau was afraid.
It's so great. It's such a great movie. I love Beau is Afraid so much, and I I love your comparison there to a prog rock band. Like it's just because watching Beau is Afraid is like being in a big jam concert where the music is going in one direction and then it rises to a different place and then it goes back to a place more familiar and then rises up again and comes back around as if the music itself is telling a story.
Right.
It's just
but it's never distracting. You know,
No.
it flows perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's, I don't know, 2023 as a whole has been a good year. And I mean, you have at least 5 that I haven't seen. 6, 7. Jesus, you only have Oppenheimer, Beau was Afraid, and Priscilla. Or I haven't seen Priscilla. May, December. Yeah. So I have a lot of work to do yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's always fun capturing the moments where it's not just an episode where we're going through the motions, and it's one where there's a lot of passion and fun talking about it behind. You know, we had it with May, December, Beau was Afraid. Had it with several movies. The Albert Brooks was fun.
Oh yeah.
And you know, hopefully 2024 there's more of that.
I just want to throw a couple of shout outs. Moon Garden is a movie that nobody watched that I did that I loved. Ennis Main is one of the best horror movies of the last year. Most people didn't see that. Fallen Leaves, Aki Kaurismäki, brilliant director and a terrific story. The Color Purple is phenomenal. People need to see The Color Purple. I'm glad it's doing so well at the box office because it deserves it. I had a very low expectation going in, and I found myself really blown away by the life and energy of The Color Purple. Asteroid City, I think a lot of people missed out on that one from Wes Anderson. It's still around. I think it's still getting some consideration, but I'm not seeing as much of it lately on that one, but I highly recommend it. Anatomy of a Fall, Sandra Huller is going to get a Best Actress nomination. It's just going to happen, and people need to seek out Anatomy of a Fall. I believe we have it in town now, in fact. So if you're interested, and 1001, an amazing lead performance. That film came out all the way back in January, and it just gets kind of lost in the shuffle. Unfortunately, A.V. Rockwell, a tremendous director, and Tiana Taylor delivering just an Academy Award level performance.
Yeah, I just saw that about a month ago. That was probably my number 11, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very good, very well acted, and just takes a twist at the end, and you probably should have seen it coming, but you don't, and so good. Any other honorable mentions you want to throw out there, Jeff?
I've got several, actually. I'll just go through them really quick. You talk about Killers of Flower Moon, No Hard Feelings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
thought that was fantastic.
Yes.
Love that movie.
Megan, that's one of those ones I can throw on in the background if I'm working on a piece or whatever, and just not have to pay too much attention to it. But when she gets to the dance sequence, I just am riveted.
Do you think if that comes out in December, it's on your list? Megan.
If Megan came out,
yeah. I mean, I know.
Yeah. And well, I think it's definitely an honorable mention. There's so many good movies this year,
right?
Especially horror movies, and you know me and horror. My number 10 was It Lives Inside. Until I thought about Talk to Me again. It Lives Inside was it's just such a good, tight story, and uses teaches you from a story from a different culture that a lot of people wouldn't even know or think about until they saw that movie that got a wide release. It's another good one that came out this year that not enough people saw because it had absolutely no push whatsoever. Like we talked about on the show, they didn't advertise it until the week it came out, and even then it was already like playing and disappearing from theaters before they started a media push. It should have come out in October because it was a Halloween movie. Infinity Pool, like I said, was on my honorable mentions. Cocaine Bear,
yes,
another movie that it almost made my top 10. It really did. But I was like, what do I push out of it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was like, well, I could get rid of Thanksgiving, but I had so much fun watching Thanksgiving. Um, you know, it was just such a fun, stupid movie, and yeah. Indiana Jones. I liked the Indiana Jones movie this time. Thought it was good. I don't think it was great. I liked Phoebe Waller-Bridge in it, especially. I think she's one of those ones that I will watch anything she does. Uh, Blue Beetle, I thought was actually a really good superhero movie. You know, it's just a wholesome and fun, and I like that a lot. And then one that we talked about that I kind of it was so early in the year I kind of forgot about it, and then Bob mentioned earlier was The Pope's Exorcist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the devil. I don't. That's why I don't love, like exorcism stories and things like that. But this was just he was so good in it, Russell Crowe. It's just like, oh my god, he just. I want to see more. I want to see more movies with this guy as this character. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I did, Sean, write a worst of list because I just couldn't not. But do you have honorable mentions, Bob?
Just a few that haven't been mentioned yet. I thought Knock at the Cabin was pretty decent early on this year.
Mm-hmm.
Totally Killer was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I mentioned Air earlier. I liked it a lot. I can't remember if I liked Sisu or not. I remember seeing it, but maybe it should be an honorable mention then. But anyway, I remember parts of it. I think it was fun. It was a little gory. But anyway, those are the only ones that you guys haven't mentioned. What is your least favorite of the year, Jeff?
Oh God, the least favorite. I'm looking at my list that I wrote down, and I'm probably gonna say Exorcist Believer or Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Those are the two that I thought of. Winnie the Pooh was just almost unwatchable. I get why they did it because it's in public domain, and they were like, "Let's do this. This will be funny." It wasn't funny. It wasn't even scary or gory enough. It was just dumb. Exorcist Believer wasted Ellen Burstyn, which is hard to do. I mean, she was better. She's better in Law and Order: Organized Crime than in this piece of shit movie that David Gordon Green should just be in prison for. The Flash had some good parts, but the CGI it was so bad. Ezra Miller is just, knowing that he gets away or they get away with whatever that other people don't, just put a really bad taste in my mouth. And then who the fuck cares about the DC expanded universe anymore?
No kidding.
Like Aquaman was terrible. I tried to watch that. I've got 3/4 of the way through it and I've turned it off every time. But I think part of that is the fact that, we're just going to do another big reboot. So, I was disappointed in Marlowe. First of all, because the character is supposed to be in his 30s and Liam Neeson is 60. Pet Sematary Bloodlines, it was one of those ones I tried to watch 3 times and fell asleep. I was also very disappointed in The Boogeyman because it's such a good story.
Liam Neeson's 71.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, yeah. That makes it even worse. That elevates it to like my...
I was going to say, was I threatening to kick his ass when he's in his 50s? He might actually be able to beat me. But nope, he was in his 60s.
Yeah. The fact that The Boogeyman was such a good story and the trailer looked so promising and then it was just boring and not scary. Yeah. So, it was a great year for horror movies, don't get me wrong, but it was also some big disappointments.
Yeah, the other one I absolutely hated was Leave the World Behind. I was really disappointed with the one you and I went to, Jeff, in Cedar Rapids.
Oh, the Outwaters.
Yeah, that one, I was really hoping for an Ari Aster level crazy, and instead I just felt like a guy who didn't have control of his movie made the movie, and there's neat things in it, but at the end of the day, it was pretty easy to pick apart.
Yeah, I saw two of my least favorite movies here, one with you and one with Sean.
We should do this more often.
Yeah, Skinamarink. That was, yeah.
I tried to watch it after Josh said he loved it, and I didn't get very far, only because, again, when I watch movies at home, I have to satisfy other people in the room. And instantly I was like, yeah, I'm not watching this. I'm like, okay, fine.
I've got a far wider list of bad movies because I have to sit through so much. But the worst movie of the year is a movie no one but me saw, basically. It's called Back on the Strip with Wesley Snipes. It's an absolutely brutal, almost impossible movie to sit through. It's just terrible. I hate it a lot, and I think it may be the same director as House Party, the reboot, which was also one of the worst movies of the year. So please stop hiring that man. Please stop hiring. His name is Calmatic, I believe, and yeah, just don't hire him for anything. Maybe I do. Diane Keaton always ends up on the worst list every year. It's a rite of passage that Diane Keaton will release a terrible film, and I'll put it on my worst of list. So yeah, that one is right there. I also hated Five Nights at Freddy's more than most people did. I really hated Quiz Lady because it wastes two of our best actresses in a really terrible comedy. Mafia Mama was just unbearable. Expendables 4. Judd Hirsch started an iPhone commercial that they turned into a movie called I'm Mordecai, which is just really, oh my God. And You People, Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill.
Yep.
Still,
I had that on my list too.
Fucking movie. What a piece of
that is
shit
true.
that.
I forgot about that.
I had that and Five Nights at Freddy's as well. And I forgot Insidious and Pet Sematary Bloodlines. And Shazam. Ugh. But, the highs this year were super high, like Beau is Afraid and, and Saltburn and Godzilla. But the lows, my God, come on.
Yeah. If I've got any disappointments, it's the Nicolas Cage. Nick Cage had a terrible year. He made two movies that I saw that were just bad. The Old Way and Butcher's Crossing. They're both westerns, and they're both just not good.
Dream Scenario any good?
Dream Scenario was not terrible, I guess.
He was just so horrible. Like the character that he played.
It's a bit of an obnoxious movie. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just such a terrible person that kind of, I think both of us said that separately. Like, I feel like I should love this movie because it's Nicolas Cage and A24, but it's just like insufferable.
But even Renfield, like he made 5 movies this year. I didn't even get to see one of them. And Renfield just was one of the bigger disappointments of the year. I thought Renfield should have been a lot better than it was. Ferrari was a huge disappointment for me. I like Michael Mann. I appreciate Michael Mann, but I don't care about some rich fuck who owns a car company who's fucking around on his wife. I could give a fuck. I could give a fuck.
Yeah.
I know you love it, Bob, but Air was probably an even bigger disappointment for me. I wanted that one to be much better than it was. If I was surprised by anything, the Teen Wolf movie was really good this year. I'm kind of alone on that, but I really enjoyed the Teen Wolf movie. The Marvels was wonderful. Oh, a movie that we should have mentioned that we haven't. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That movie was incredible. Held back only by my experience of seeing the movie, where I was the only man in the theater, and the women there thought that I should not be there.
Well, it was a trench coat, and that really did it.
I did like Poor Things. We've not talked much about Poor Things. It's one of the bigger movies of the year. I do think it's a really good movie. It's a top 30 movie for me. The Holdovers as well is another one we've not talked about. But if you guys, it's on Peacock. If you have Peacock, you can watch it.
I actually watched it the other night, and it was fine, but I didn't. It was nowhere near my top 10.
So yeah, that's yeah.
What about Maestro? That's the only movie I haven't seen that we haven't mentioned.
Did you watch it, Jeff?
I did. I was bored.
I wasn't bored. I think Bradley Cooper is a really good director, and I think he does have a couple of really great scenes. But it comes back to that thing I always talk about, where it's the most acting and
Yeah.
the most that, and it's very big. And at the same time, Bernstein himself, when he was conducting, he was big. People keep accusing Bradley Cooper of overdoing it. He was doing Bernstein as Bernstein. Like that's a ridiculous criticism. Like, yes, he's spending 6 years to learn to be a conductor, maybe a little bit much. I think that's probably overdoing it, but he wasn't overdoing it in those scenes. But there's a scene in the middle or early on, I guess, where it's him and Carey Mulligan, and they go to see one of his Broadway productions as they're practicing it, and then turns into this big dance dream sequence. That is lovely. That is a great piece of direction that I can definitely hold up and say that I love that, and that should be venerated. There's a couple of moments where it reaches that, but the movie just doesn't reach there overall.
Yeah. I guess I just don't like Leonard Bernstein enough to care. I know that sounds shitty, but oh god, if we had to watch that for the show, I would have quit. I'm just kidding. I would have been like, "Oh, you guys, I'm sick." Yeah, I like Carey Mulligan. I don't mind Bradley Cooper, but I guess it wasn't gay enough. I mean, it's not ignored, but he pretty
confusing.
much was.
I found it confounding what exactly he was trying to say about Bernstein's sexuality.
Yeah.
Because I think, and maybe that's intentional, because Bernstein was kind of vague and kind of in and out of the closet as it served him. So maybe that's what he was going for, and he was trying to make it subtle. But I think at times he makes it so subtle that I'm not sure everybody understands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you guys most looking forward to this year?
Maxine. That's the only one. That's the only movie
I am super, super, super looking forward to that.
The new poster is amazing. It's up on the Facebook page if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I looked at somebody was passing around a meme of big name movies that are coming out this year, and I wasn't interested in the least in any of them. But they didn't have Maxine on the list, and I'm like, that's the only movie I'm looking forward to right now.
I'm looking forward to that. Kind of looking forward to A Quiet Place Day One. I like those movies a lot. So Deadpool, if it comes out this year, it's supposed to, but who knows? I've seen the stuff from the set with Hugh Jackman in the classic Wolverine costume. So, I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if I'm necessarily looking forward to like the Joker movie with Lady Gaga. I like her. I love Lady Gaga. I just didn't love Joker enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought it was a little meh. There is this time next year coming out the Robert Eggers Nosferatu. I'm really looking forward to that. And there's a new Jordan Peele movie coming out at Christmas next year or this year. That I'm really looking forward to those. I'm hoping that we have as good a year for horror as we did this year or last year. The fact that how I felt about Pearl and how I thought that she was robbed just as much as Toni Collette was for Hereditary. I don't see Maxine being the same kind of movie as Pearl. I don't know if she'll get the chance to, because Pearl is kind of a little outsized character as opposed to Maxine in X. So I'm hoping that she is this, stays at that level again, as far as characterization, so that we can get her a fucking Oscar nomination already.
Amen. I got to drop off, but you guys can keep going.
All right. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Now we can talk about Sean.
No, I'm looking forward to Civil War, the Alex Garland
Yeah.
movie coming out, and then everything else you guys said.
When I found out that Kirsten Dunst was in Civil War, it made me want to see it more.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I don't think she's physically possible, her or Jesse Plemons, from doing anything acting wise that is apart from each other now that they're married. But when I found out she was in it, I was like, yeah, you know what? Okay, I'll give that a chance.
Oh
So,
no, there's a Talk to Me Too
there's Talk to Me Too.
coming out next year
Oh,
from A24.
there's what's it called? I've got it on a list somewhere. Let me see. Mickey 17 with it's a Bong Joon-ho movie starring Robert Pattinson. So I'm looking forward to that because Bong Joon-ho hasn't made a movie since Parasite. It's got Robert Pattinson, Mark Ruffalo, and Toni Collette in it. It comes out in March.
Wow. That sounds great.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to carry a big notebook that time.
Trey Edward Schultz made a movie. They haven't named it yet, but Jenna Ortega is in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Looking forward to that. I don't know what it is, but I like him. We Live in a Time. Florence Pugh.
I saw the trailer for Madam Web, and I was kind of into like the idea of that movie until I saw the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'm buying Dakota Johnson in that part yet. We'll see. There's that new Godzilla versus Kong. That's the same. Apparently the same stuff as the other American ones. I don't know. Challengers looks kind of fun, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Then there's God, what's the? I don't know. There's another Blumhouse movie that I know is going to be stupid and looks like it's kind of in the vein of Megan, about a killer teddy bear or something. Uh, there's a new Planet of the Apes movie that I like all of the Planet of the Apes movies, even the bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, this is probably closer to the from the trailer anyway. It looks like the classic ones, where the humans are all being kept by the apes in captivity. It looks a little closer to the Charlton Heston one. I don't know. I like those movies enough that even the bad ones are good to me. So hopefully that doesn't suck too bad.
Yeah. I mean,
Did you know there's a sequel to Twister coming out
God, no.
called Twisters?
That's stupid. There's a new Ghostbusters movie coming out.
What's that?
There's a Ghostbuster movie coming out too.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that they were going to make a sequel so quickly, but apparently.
And Jason Reitman didn't direct it.
Yeah.
Yay.
M. Night Shyamalan has a new movie coming out called Trap.
Dune.
M. Night
Part
Shyamalan
2.
has been working nonstop for the past quarter century, but there's something especially succinct and expedient about his run of modestly budgeted one-word titles: Split, Glass, Old, and now Trap. Writing the ship after the more complicated, if conceptually streamlined, Knock at the Cabin. Little is known about Shyamalan's latest, beyond that it'll be set at a concert. So,
Okay.
and allegedly there's an Alien movie coming out in August, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the Mad Max Fury Road. I don't know Furiosa. I haven't really seen anything on that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Beetlejuice 2, Transformers 1, Saw 11. Which, I mean, what are they going to do?
Right. Now I'm just naming movies. Deadpool 3. Borderlands, I'm curious, because that's Eli Roth again with a real cast. I want to see how he does with that.
Yeah. Well, I know that Jamie Lee Curtis has been talking about how great it is, but Jamie Lee Curtis also said that about Halloween Ends, and look how that turned out.
Yep. But we got Thanksgiving, Terrifier 3. Though you're not as into those, are you?
You kind of broke up there.
Terrifier 3. Were you're not as big a Terrifier fan as most horror fans, or?
Well, I saw the first one before everybody was like on the bandwagon for 2. I saw 2 and I didn't love it as much, partially because it was 2.5 hours long and it didn't need to be.
Right.
I think that from what I've heard about Terrifier 3, it's a Christmas movie, so that really interests me. I like, everybody in it. I like David Howard Thornton. He's a really cool guy. I've met him at a couple shows. Damien Leone, same thing. So they get to do what they get to do because of the fact that the first one was so successful and the second one built upon that. So I will see this one in the theaters. I'm sure because of the popularity, I'm sure that it'll get a wider release than the last 2, apparently. So,
right. Yeah. And I had heard him on a podcast talking about how they had to totally redo the ending because it had the same exact ending as X, or I think it was X. And they had to, but X came out before they did. So they heard about the ending of X and they had to then rework the ending without shooting anything new. They just had to rearrange the scenes, and that's part of why it ended the way it did. I guess the whole thing in the hospital or whatever was more in the middle of the movie, and they ended up cutting it down to just a few seconds. I don't know. And they still managed to make a fun, watchable movie out of it. Yeah, I have not paid attention to really what's coming out, so we've just been naming them. But I guess the new Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, I'm curious to see how they wrap that up, because I did not like the last one because they just left it like a TV show ending. Yeah. But I'm ready for that to save that, if that makes sense.
Right. I think that one of the things that I liked both of the first 2, but one of the things that kind of kept me from loving the middle one was the fact that it was just the middle one.
Right.
And it seemed a little bloated in order to make it a 3-part, to make the third part, they kind of had to expand this one. And I think that story, I think I said it at the time, it could have been condensed, and, they could have figured some other way out as opposed to a cliffhanger, or still had a cliffhanger, but, leaned it down a little bit.
Right.
I just thought it was a little over bloated to make it seem like a full movie to lead up to the next one.
Right. And I just hope this one's not over bloated too. And in hindsight, we're going to be like, well, if you just made those 2 one movie, it was perfect.
Yeah. Watch it be 30 minutes long. Yeah, we didn't have enough, so we just said, fuck it.
Just put it on YouTube. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think that, I hope that we have the same. I hope we have a better slate of movies this coming year with less disappointments. Although, we're gonna certainly get our Outwaters and Skinamarink, the ones that everybody, praises to high heaven. And I'm left thinking, what the fuck did you guys watch? Because that's not what I watched.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I know there'll be the movies we all disagree on.
Oh yeah.
But that's what's fun.
Yeah,
right.
Here's to a better 2024. So.
Yes, absolutely.
For everything.
Yes. Yeah. No, 2023 sucked outside of the movies. It was a terrible year.
Oh God! was with a friend earlier today, and she was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you all, most of the year." And I said, "Yeah, that's because I hid in my apartment because everything sucked. Literally everything sucked, from the job to the art to to a certain scream queen that everybody loves still owing me 80 fucking bucks.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so but I mean, very few high points, but the high points were really high this year.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'm talking to Lynn Griffin about her and her husband both maybe doing an interview with me.
Awesome.
To try to get on the show. They've been sick all winter, so
that's awful.
Yeah, so we're trying to. She reached out and said, "Let's set something up pretty soon." So sounds like we'll be doing that. We'll do like a little career retrospective, and maybe we can use, one of her movies as a classic that week.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
So yeah.
Excellent. Well, this was fun, and we do need to go to another movie together, though, and hopefully it's better.
Well, let's figure. Yeah, or even let's figure something out that's going to be at the Last Picture House, because I haven't been there yet.
We gotta do that for sure.
I thought about going today, and then I just got overwhelmed, and so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll figure something out. So.
All right. Well, hopefully this year is better than last.
Exactly, and I'll probably see you.
Yeah.
Just randomly walking at my job. So.
All right.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.